In this video, we will continue on, and this is part 3 of the journey of my documentation of creating a POS. And if you see my previous video, I'll show you the structure what we're going to do, which was this one here. Oh, this is our basic. Then here we have our wireframe, which is very straightforward. We're going to work on this. And then finally here, I will be using Bootstrap. I decided to use Bootstrap for one reason. It would probably save a lot of time here to use Bootstrap, and afterwards we might re-engineer and readjust that to the design we want. So should you be using the Bootstrap, I would say to follow along. Highly recommend to do that. But of course, if you want to make your own version, that's fine as well. I decided this for simplicity and for the speed of it. So to get everything, I already have the starter template. So you go to Bootstrap here, and this is version 5.0, and then we will click here on the starter template. And the starter template, you just can copy this and paste this, and you'll get everything what you need immediately. So I'm just going to remove all of these excess codes or these comments here. So we have everything here. Alright, so in here, we're going to say here, this is our header or POS for now. We're going to work here on the POS, and then what we need to do is need to check what are we going to design first, what part. Alright, so once we see this, I'm going to see if we can remove these items for now. Alright, and here as well. No, that's alright. Most important one is here. So we have a few items here. First of all, we have up this the navigation. Then we have the site navigation. We have to see if we can do the site navigation in this design, because this is slightly a tricky one. Here probably we will need a lot of CSS. So I'm wondering if I would do this for now. Maybe I can just do square icons here, which is fine as well. Although that will not be possible because these items here are special categories. So we have to see on that one. Next, we have all of these items here. What I want to do, and this is the most important part of what we're going to do here first, is to make sure that we have this here, these drinks, and that these drinks eventually have a dynamic item here, so that once we click on it, it will show in here. Alright, so that's what we're going to do first. So to do this, first of all, we're going to create a new section. And in this section, the first section will be our navigational section. And the reason why this will be the navigational section, so we say here class navigation. And then in here, we will have basically, well, is the navigational section? Well, I'm not sure. Yeah, probably it is. Basically only for the dashboard here, because we will be showing only one item here. That's purely. The others are more tabs design. So what we will do here is the following. We want to make sure we have these items here. And yes, maybe this we will just remove that. I don't want to use navigational section here. We're not going to focus on the semantics at this moment. The reason why is if you're logged in, it's fine, because this page will never be indexed by Google. Or at least you don't want it to be indexed, because this page is not something that is search engine friendly by default anyway. The reason why is that this is when you log in, you want to press on these buttons and bam, that's it. So it's not designed for Google. So you can say here, just this will be class, and I'll just give it top menu. And here you have two items. Basically, we have the new screen and the order screen. So this will eventually, we will be needing Bootstrap for this, but here we can just put in some buttons for now. I'm just going to put in buttons. So if you have wondered, should you use button, yes or no, or should you use links? Well, in this case, I would say go for buttons. Why? Because buttons is the standard practice. Although sometimes you might use links, and I know it's in Bootstrap, sometimes you have to use what we call a hack to create a Bootstrap design, or to make it a link instead of a button to make it work. However, that doesn't matter for now. So we can give here a class. And this top menu, well, we can just say here top menu, and then say with, or maybe we can say this top menu will be an ID. So just the ID on here. And then we say here, this will be width 100. Alright. Then here we have a class. Then we say here btn. Is that small or just general? Alright. Then we say just btn dark. And I'm going to copy this as well. Put it in here for the next class. And then next what we need to do is we need to put in the text here. We say your order screen, or a new screen, order status, and dashboard. So we say here, order, or new order. Then we can do here, this will be order status. And finally, which is the last one, this is a link, because this is really a link going to the dashboard item. So this will be a link going to the dashboard or the backend. This is dashboard. And here we can say, instead of using class item, we can use this as well, dark. Let's do this, but here we will make this an outline. Dark outline. No, this doesn't need to be refreshed. Sorry, I'm just used to it. Alright, so we refresh this one here based on a design, and somehow it just lets load, so I'll just give it some time. The next item here, of course, here we need to have a margin left auto. We should have that as well, and we save that. Or is it margin right? Okay, that doesn't work, so we have to double check what's going on here. What's the width here right now? This is the top. We have the items here. For some reason it doesn't want to respond to my link. Margin bottom left, margin auto. We have here, this would be inline block. Alright, so we will just figure that one out later on. It should be margin auto left. Let's save them one more time just to double check. Alright, that doesn't work. For now, that's fine. We'll just ignore that. But what we will do is here, we just gave it a padding as well. That's in here, we say padding. Padding 3. Save that. Oh no, I don't want to do this one. And here, refresh. Alright. So we're going to figure out this later on, and we can put in here if we want a border. There we are. So we have a border here. So this is the first part. So the next part, what we want to do here is to play around with the, let's double check. We have here this, the menu, the mini menu. So you can say here, div, and then we have to double check here. This will be ID, we'll say side menu. And this side menu, what we're going to do here, well, we give it a, we have to see what's our width. In our case here, I think this will be CSS itself, so we can say yes, style. And I will give this a fixed width of 50 pixels. I'm not sure if this is the right amount of size, but we have to test that. 50 pixels, and then within here, we can put in basically our buttons. These are buttons, not links, and the reason why is these are basically tabs. Tabs, when we click on this tab, we should see the other item. Save this. Go back here, refresh. Alright, so we have this here, but you can see the width has not been spelled correctly here. Width, save. There you are. Max width, order status. Alright. So here we might maybe give the font size small. Or we can do it here. Small. Just put it in here. Although this should not be the right way, but that's alright for now. Small doesn't respond to alright because it's apparently not the right way. Makes sense. Should be on the exact item here. Small. Small. Same here. And this would be, what would this be? Well, this would be the category. So for example, we have here one is milk tea. Other one was fruit tea. And the final item will be coffee or coffee drinks. It could be also fraps, shakes, etc. etc. So we say here, coffee. Alright, so this is it. Let's double check here what's going on, why the item doesn't want to break down. Alright, so we can make here maybe a font size small. What we can do here is I'll just readjust this instead of doing this here. I'm going to remove certain items here. No, that's not what I want. I want this. There you are. And then we say here font size. Oh, this width. Then we say as well font size. And we can do here maybe 12 pixels. Default is set on 16 if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, even bigger here, sorry. Let's make this 10 pixels. Did we save that? Make sure we save this font size. Here, what is it? Alright, by default it's this. So font size 15 pixels is probably not responding properly, and the reason why is probably, let's check on our computer. So we can see here if the button has the right font size. So we say here font family, alright, but we need font size, alright, 16 pixels. So what happens is it's overruling because it has a structure of 1 rem. Alright, can we maybe overrule this with saying 0.6 rem? Alright, doesn't work. The only way how we could do it is just force important, although it's not the right way to do it. Well, that even doesn't work as well. Fair enough. At that moment, then, if we cannot adjust this one here, we need to do really specifically on the button. Then what we can do is, probably that will make more sense, I realize. We just say here btn sm for small button. And that will most likely respond better. Alright. And then what I will do is then I'll just give this a slightly bigger size here. So we have this, alright. What we can do here with 100. Then we say here, padding 3. Save that, refresh, alright. Here we have this padding, and then what we can do there, and just give this padding 12. Alright, so 100. What we could do here is max with 100 as well, forcing the item to be maximum size. Alright. Then I realize that padding is maybe not the one we need margin. And the reason why we do margin is we want to push this a bit more like that. Alright, that is slightly too much, I feel. Let's see if we can do that. A little bit better. Can we do this more better? I'm sure we can, because right now you can see our design here is completely different as what we have right now. But that's fair. Let's focus on the most important one. We have this part here to work on, and on this part here as well. So what we're going to do here is create a new div. And this div will be called basically the order div, or the cart orders, or order cards, or order menu. And in this order menu, we will also give it a padding of 3. We're going to work with cards. Probably you can say here ID, the order menu. Then here we have the cards. Class, oh, this is right. Then you say here, we need to look here for the card structure, cards. And what we really want to do is we want to put cards beside each other. And if you go to scroll down here somewhere, card layout, horizontal if I'm not mistaken. Oh, this is the horizontal. No, I want to have multiple card layouts. That's probably the one, the card layout, most likely in groups or grids. This is the one we want. We want the grid design. Alright, so we won't get this part. So we're going to copy this part here. And then what I will do is I will cut out all of this. I need all of this. And this excess can be deleted. Now what we have here is our POS part for the restaurant. Let me say here food, or let's say here coffee or espresso. And I'm going to remove the image. I am assuming right now that the image is not an important part yet. We say here $2.99 for an espresso. Alright, so we save this and go back here, refresh. There we are. This eventually needs to be within this part here. So what we have to do here is now to figure out, okay, how can we get this all together? Most likely we need to have here a row, and this will be within the other row. So what we have to do here, we create a div class, and then we say here row, and then we have this part here. Alright, so this will close this, and then here this should be a column. Alright, so this makes sense here why this is not responding, because we have the ID here, and then we have, let's close that up, say class here. And here, this should be a row of a column as well. And this is way too big, alright, that I'm not so happy with. Why is the column this? Maybe we can do column number 2. And refresh, alright, so column number 2 is fine. I'm going to cut away this then I will say here column MD number 2. So I have to see later on, because I'm not certain if mobile responsiveness is going to become a big problem here. We have this. As you can see, this would not make any sense. So we have to see on that one. Well, most likely we're going to make a special CSS on that one. Alright, so we have this here. Now what we have, and I start to know that Bootstrap is really, it's very tough to use Bootstrap now. Because we have to put this one here on the side, and this is not possible, it doesn't allow it, unless we use another div. And in this div, we have a class, and this class will be another column. So we have this, alright, and then we have here another div, but this column will be column, if we have here column number 2, this should be column, so we have 2, I guess this could be 6, and the reason why it's 6, MD6, is this will have a bigger space. And we will need a bigger space here, just for one reason, which is that this, these are just the items, and here we will show the price, remember. So this could be smaller. As you can see here, it's far too big, so we could probably move this a bit like this size here. So this will be 6 and this will be 5, but or 4, because we have here, this would be MD of 2. Alright, so you have here the column 2, or sorry, column 6, column 2 means we have column 4 left. Alright, so we have here div class, and then we say here, oh, I can give this ID, this will be the total price. Alright, so in here we will have to give it a row. And well, do we need a row? Let's double check here what we need to do. We have this. This is column 6, and I can see that I'm making a mistake here. Sorry. Don't remove that. I want to be here outside. There's no need for a row then as well. And the reason why is we will have here another class or column. This column will be MD4 equal to this. So we have 2, 4, or 2, 6, 4 makes total of 12. Save this, refresh, and we cannot see yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this a background light. There you are. Alright, so this one will be here, and now what we have to do is here, first of all, this. I believe that this order menu here might give some padding of 3. We do that. Alright, that works. And then in here we have this, and here will be also maybe a padding of 3. But here we will have the item. So what will happen here is we're going to put in here a tiny card. Or basically it could be a card. You can even use a alert. I think card is fine for now. I'm going to do this. And then we save that. Refresh, we have here the espresso, but I don't like here, you can see here we have some padding to work with margin. I guess what you can say here, margin X0, left and right margin none. Do we have, will that work? Let's double check here. We have something here that is overruling itself, and this is really a big issue with Bootstrap. You have to play around to figure out this part. So I guess maybe eventually removing it would be a better idea. However, this is one of them that we really have to figure out. So we have this design here. What I want to do here is at least have 2 more. And what I want to do is that when we click on this, we should show here the item. That is the most important part we need to do. Once we have that design or that function ready, we can start to work on design, and it's easier. Because working on design is, to be honest, far more easier than using the JavaScript and the PHP and etc. to create the interaction. Alright, So what I'm going to do here for now is, while we have this, I will just ignore everything here. We have this margin. I'll just ignore this. We'll just leave this for now. And the only thing what I want to do is I want to make this clickable. So when we click on it, it should show here. At least it should show something there. Alright, how can we do this? Well, basically what we have to do is we have to use JavaScript for that. Alright, so we're going to work now with the JavaScript, and the JavaScript part will be probably more exciting than the Bootstrap. I really realized that it's far more fun to work with CSS. Although it's far more challenging, it's far more rewarding. Alright, so we're going to do here, we're going to put in a script, and the script tag here will start to work with our JavaScript. And what are we going to do here? Well, basically what we're going to do is we're going to click on this, and once we click on it, we will add here an item here. So what will happen is the following. So basically we will add up a new cart. In here that would be like this, below, and what I want to do, make sure it's here, and we have some. So this is not what I wanted. I want to have a bit of a margin at the bottom. So it's a margin here, 3. Alright, as you can see here. And so basically every time we add one, we should have added a new item here based on whatever we click. So if we click on espresso, we should see that. And if we click on anything else, we should see that. So how can we do this? Well, let's make first here. Oh, sorry, this is not what I need. Let's make first the item, where we can put in multiple. So we say here, I'm going to save that. I'm going to refresh. Oh, this is no, that's not the one. We need this one here. So save that and refresh. Alright, so we have 2 items here, and I'm going to give one is a cappuccino. Cappuccino. And that will be 350 or 349. And the espresso is 299. Alright, so we're going to use this, and these are basically our items here. So how will we do this? Script here, and in here, basically the few things. We're going to create a function, and this function will be add order. And in this function, all we're going to do is basically a few items we will get. We will get the item name and probably the price name here. So we say here, I'm going to say here, maybe ID as well. ID should be as well. I would highly recommend ID. The ID, and then we have the product name, product, I'll just call it product, ID, product, and price. Very straightforward. These are the 3 items. I'm sure if you have multiple, that would be fine as well. You can do that as well, depending on what you have more. However, these are most important that we're going to use. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do here, we're going to pinpoint this part here, more specifically the placeholder of everything. So let's look at where this part is. So we have here the ID of total price. So once we click within the ID of total price, we will add up a new cart. That's what we're going to do. So we say here, let me think, the price ID. Alright, so we say here constant total price equals, I'm not sure you and the ID total price is the correct name, but that's alright for now. We can probably give this like total orders, or the order amount, or order things, because it's not a total price. Well, let's rename this for now. Let's say order list. That's probably more appropriate. So we can make this with small caps. And then we say here order list. This should be big caps. Then we say here document.query selector. You can search what's the ID, and then we say order list. Order list. Alright, so basically we're going to search for the order list here. It could be as document.getElementById, one or the other, whatever you want. Which one is common? Query selector is becoming more famous. Is it better? Questionable. There's some people say yes, other people say be more specific. We just get document by ID is even better. However, doesn't matter for now. My focus is not on what's better or worse. All what I want is now very simple this. So once we have this, and then I realize that this should not be within here. No, sorry, should be out. The reason why it should be out is here. We will do the following. Let's say here, order list. Then we say here, add event listener. Oh, we should probably do ID listener on click, comma. We're going to use the function add order, or trigger the function add order. All right. So let's try and see if this works, because I'm fearing that this will probably give an issue here. So we say console.log. Let's double check, and then we say here test. That's it. We're going to test this, and what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we trigger our add order. Wait, is this correct? I realize that this is probably not correct. Sorry, we don't even need this one. We might even put it in here, and the reason why is I'm going to do an on-click directly on a div element. Sorry about that. We're going to do this here. So that's why this is my documentation on how I do it. I am not always the best on everything. Well, I'm definitely not the best on programming, but I definitely like these kind of things, and I work on this very much. Alright, so we say here on click, but I do hope you're able to understand what I'm doing here. So we say here on click, and when we have on click here, we will trigger the following: the add order function. On click add order function, and then in here we will say the following values. So we have these values here, and these values are basically, this is a number, so we can say a number 1, and of course this will be echoed out if you have PHP, or with JavaScript you use JSON, etc, etc. Then next here the product will be a string, which is cappuccino, and the price is of course a number, 3.49. What I want to do is I will round it up here, and the reason why is because later on we will discover some issues with JavaScript, so I don't want to deal with these issues for now because of certain mathematical issues they have built in here. So I'm going to do this for now. So sorry about that. Later on, we will go deeper on that. Yes, and if you are wondering what I'm talking about, if you try to do 0.1 or 0.01 plus 0.02, you would expect 0.03, but in reality it will be a lot of digits at the very end, and then you have like these kind of numbers. This is a reason for this is basically because 1000 is basically 1024. So it creates a certain level of complexity, which I don't want to deal with for now because the video is starting to get quite long. Alright, so we have this on click here. I'm going to get this one and copy this again, put it in the other one, where we're going to pinpoint now specifically the espresso. Espresso is number 3, and we realize this is our ID number, so if this is ID number, it should be ID number 2. Number 2, alright. So if we save this, we get here console log, then we can say yes, or more specifically, we could just get the product name. Alright, so if I save this and refresh, you can see nothing happens here, and then I'm going to open up the developer tab here, and then I'll see if we can maybe make it slightly bigger. Alright, so when I click here, you should see here in the console log. Where's the console log? Alright, when I click on this, there you are. You can see I get now cappuccino, I get espresso, etc. And how many times I click, there you are. That's what I want. This is going to be extremely important for us. Alright, so we have this now. We have created a mini connection. Now it's time to work on it by adding up the item. So how do we do the item? So we do here document.create element, and basically what we're going to do here is we're going to create an element, and the element that we're going to create is a div. Alright, and why is the div? Well, let's look at this here. Basically what we're going to do is when we click on it, we want to add up a new div similar to this here. We copy just, but it will be starting in here. So we say here add this div. Alright, we add a div, basically this one. Let's copy. We can copy all of this text here. What we need to add, I will show you exactly what we're going to add. All right, we have to add first a div. So we say here add div. Another item that we're going to create is another div for the cart body. Then another one. So I'm going to give this here. This is cart MB-3. All right. So you are able to follow along here. This is cart body. So this is the most complicated one, but follow along with me and you see my breakdown. You understand how this works. And this one will be the H5. And then once we have the next one would be the paragraph. That's the final one. Slash, and then we say paragraph, P. And then what we could do here, maybe a span. It's okay for now. I will not spend too much time on the $sign here. I'm going to remove the $sign. I don't want to spend time on it. But we could use the $sign by putting in a span as well. But for now, to make it really simple for you to follow along, it's probably better not to have it too complicated. All right. This would be H5. And finally, we have create element paragraph. It we call the P. So once we do this, we're going to remove all of, oh no, we don't have to remove it yet because we still need to create the item here. So we say here, document create. All right, what we can say here is the following. Because this needs to be a constant. And this constant can be called cart. And the reason why I'm going to give it cart is because here's this cart. All right, and then when we say here, cart, because what we're going to do now is going to add up the same class. I want the same layout design what we have before. We grab the same one. So basically, when we click on this, we should see a certain layout design that we have here and exactly duplicate that. All right. So we say cart dot. Let me double check here. This will be class list dot add equal, and then we're going to add up the class list. So what are the class lists that we have? The answer is basically above. Makes sense, right? That's what we have. We have exactly the same class. Basically, I'm just going to copy this, but then say in JavaScript how to do what we normally do just in CSS or HTML. So once we have that, we can do the same one here. We're going to say here another constant. This kind of cart body equal div. All right, and then we say here cart body dot class list dot add, and then we can say here, what do we want? Exactly this design here. Then we say this. All right, and then once we have here another one, which is eventually the H. Does the H have one? Yes, that's the class title. So we can copy that. So I can say here const H5. I can say here class title. We can copy this equals that, and then we say here H5 class title, or even not class title, just H5 title, so you have it easy to for yourself to remember, because if you expand this a lot, it becomes harder and harder, trust me. I know how this works. Eventually it will be very complicated, so you will have a lot of time to think. So you're wasting a lot of time with thinking. So basically this one here, class title, would get the cart title, text, single quotation, remember this is a string, paragraph. Now we have the paragraph, and then we can say here const p text equal that. All right, then we say p text dot class list dot add equal, and then we have to double check what is the class cart text. That's this one. All right, so once we have this, we're almost done. So the only thing now that we have to do is we have to create what we call the children. So append child, that's what we're going to talk about. Appending a child is basically you have the parent. What is the parent? Let me explain here. If we look here, or we can check our text here. This ID here is basically the parent. The order list ID is the parent, and everything here within is eventually the appending child. So what we want to add is the child will be added in here. So this is the parent, and append child will be every time this chunk of code, which is our card. So we say here, we get the ID of order list, and later on we have to maybe double check if this really works, but that's alright for later on. This, and then we say dot append child with capital C, and then here we can put in the value, or sorry, this has to be like this, and in here we're going to put our value. So what do we want to put in here? So we have the order list, and remember, if you look at this, we have to follow the exact order. This part is the child of this. This is the child of that, meaning that this is the parent, and this is the child of this, and this one is the child of card body as well. So basically this one has a twin. You can say, well, twin, or two children, the H5 and the paragraph. Alright? Very, very important to remember. So what we can do here is we say the order list first, and the order list will, the child of the, or the parent is this, and what is the child? We call it card. Alright? Then card is the parent, and then we append the child. So what is the child of card? Well, in this case, we have card body. And then we have the card body, which will append, or this is the parent. Let's double check what is the parent, or who is the parent of this card body. We know that the H5 title is one of the children. And remember here, because you will append it based on order. So if you append first a paragraph, what will happen is that you will put this paragraph up and the H5 will go down. So make sure you do it in the same sequence as how you would like to see it here up. Alright? So then finally, another one, which is the second child, and the second child, in chronological order, is the parent. Alright? So we got everything now. If you do this here, we have this. We can save this now and see if something would happen here. Now we'll just double check here. This might give us an error, but we'll see. Refresh here. Alright. Well, let me first click on this. When I click on this, let's see what happens. I don't see anything. Maybe there's an error. If there's an error, alright. Fair enough. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to click here on console log. Where are we? Where are we? Oh, we are here on the console. Did I refresh this? Then I click. Let's double check here. Alright, we have this append child, order list. Alright, so I have a feeling that this is probably our biggest issue, so I'm going to change this to document get element by ID, because it doesn't recognize. Or remove the hashtag here. So then you have everything here, this append to order list, and then we probably will have a working model. Let's refresh this, double check here what's going on here. So I'm going to click on here. Alright, so you can see we have something, but the value or the height is still set on 0. So let's start and solve this one right now. Then we're almost done with our basic structure. Alright, so we have this. And what we want to do now is basically add up the text here. Remember, we have the text here. We have these items here. Alright, so we say the product. We want to put in the product. Where are we going to put it in? In the H5, we will put in the espresso value or the product value. And then in the paragraph, we put in the price value. Alright? So we'll say here in the H5, we can just put it here between, wherever you want to do it. Doesn't matter, but here you can say the following. We say H5 dot title. Oh, sorry, not dot title, just H5 title dot, and then we say inner text equal, and what is it equal? The product name. Alright, then you hear the same item here, but then for p text, inner text will be price. Save this, and then refresh, and then let's see what we have. Alright, there we are. So we have something here, but I have a feeling that we don't have the right CSS design here. Do we have an issue with the CSS? I guess we do. So let's double check here. Document create add. This would be instead of class list, we'll add class name. And I will say, let's try if this will work. Alright, so that doesn't work. So I have to double check here if we have maybe this item add. If I save that and refresh, alright, that doesn't work. Class name, class list, save and add. Alright, that doesn't work, so we have to check here. Class list, I'm going to check what is exactly the reason why we are not able to add up this item here. So, alright, so after some checking, well, I did some tests around and I realized it was already fine. The only issue was this is the correct way and this one here above is the incorrect way. And the reason why the H5 was not responding here, we can do this just to give it a background. What is that? Green. And you will see it will respond now if we click on it. Add on the end of divided by this contain HTML space character. Oh, alright, so space and characters are not allowed here. Fair enough. So we're going to test this one because here, if I click on this, you will notice it still shows here H5. So I need to check what's going on with the spaces. Alright. Class this will be class name. And the reason why is that we can then add up a space here. Let's double check here, refresh. Put in that. No, is it not working? What's the issue? It's not a function. Alright, this is not a function because this will be equal that. Once we have this equal, you will see now it will become a function. So we have that. Double click here because then we can also add up the spaces. And the reason why it doesn't allow spaces is because it will add a class. And adding a class or attaching an extra class, you're not allowed to have a space because if you have a space, it will be confusing. So we're going to overrule and just assign it a complete fixed class. So let me double check here. Where are we now? Here. And if you see this one, I'm not sure if you're able to see, we have here the class that works fine. So what we're going to do here, we're going to just copy this. We're going to change this to class name. So I will explain later on what's the difference and why this matters. Then we have this, we put this in here. Save that, and if we save this now, we should see the right design. There we are. Alright, this looks beautiful, so we have this here. So let me explain here what's the difference between the class name and we have the class name and you have the class list. Well, they're almost similar. They're not exactly, so they do different items here. So we have this understanding as well, because this was before for me a big issue from what's the difference exactly. Alright, so the class name basically overwrites everything previously. Meaning, for example, if you would have a class, let's say we have a class div or div with a class, and that would be the class would be this, say card BG green. All right, and you wanted to, for example, add font weight bold, making it a bit bold color. Yes. To add this, you're not allowed to use this here, because what happened if you would say class name, if you will say class name equals this, it will remove everything else. So basically what will happen, the result is that you will get this. Your div class would be this only. It removes everything else. Alright? So this is very important. And I learned this the hard way as well. But of course, eventually you start to search for it and then you know. But this is really important to understand. This is why I sometimes get confused with it. But of course, if you test them both, you will see eventually the result as what I did. Very straightforward. Alright, so what is then the difference then with class list? With class list, you need to add, and then you put in this. And this is fine, but you can only add one class at a time, meaning no space between. This is why it's not allowed to have another space. So if you have like two classes, let's say BG dark and text white, You cannot do it with add because it sees here the space. Sorry, you're not able to do this because we cannot add the space in here. So it really recognizes it because basically it assumes that, say, wait a minute, you're trying to make you want to add one class that contains a space. That is not a correct way to do a class in CSS. So it's basically helping us in a way, but also not really, because if you don't understand it, you might be confused. So this is the reason why this is eventually not the way. So the only way you can do with the class here, you could do one class at a time. So it would be here BG green, and then you would have another one at class list. You do another double command at class list. This would be font weight bold, for example. So you have to do 2 or 3 times depending on how many times we have here. So in our case here we had like this, you had to do double. Alright, so this is very important because you only add, meaning adding means you will add one class to it. If there would be a previous class, imagine the card would have it had a class of cards. You basically add card, and then you have like font weight bold added in here. And if you would have another one with BG, green would be added as well. So that's it. That's main difference here with class list and class name. With class name, it's like hard code. You assign completely and overwrite everything else. With class list add, you just add one class to it. Alright, so that was a bit of a JavaScript information. The reason why this is important is you will use this far more often later on with different parts of it. However, we've got now our item here, and then basically we should have now also a value below here, and we were going to work on this. I think that will be the last item I will make quickly, because what we have to do here to understand this, then here, what we can do first of all, I want to remove a certain item. We have this data here, we can delete. So remove that, and then what we can do here is I'm going to put in here a div. Then we say here ID total balance. Alright, and the reason why is this will be the total balance part, and in here we're going to have a paragraph of total products equals, and here span, and this span will be an ID total products, and then here we have another one which will be total amount, or this would be maybe instead of thing, I would say here total order. Alright, focusing on the order, and then we say here total balance. Alright, or total amount, could be one or the other, doesn't matter so much. Alright, so we have this here. So what we're going to do now is basically we're going to add up the next tiny part in here. So we have here created this. This will be adding the order, and then we have, should we add up another function here? So this is a discussion here quite common. And that's what I've learned as well. So I'm just sharing everything that I've learned, and so you can think as well. How big should your function be? Because we could add it in here, and doing that, it will make this function far more bigger. Is it clever? The honest answer is no. Having one function doing one specific item is the best. One function should do only one thing. In this case, this function will only add the div. That's it. And basically any values of the div. But it should not calculate the item, basically. So having another one would be clever for the value. But of course, that can be hard because we have this connected here. So you might say, well, what should we do? In this case, I would say this is directly connected with each other. I would say use this together. Alright? So what we're going to do here, we're going to create an array. This array, and this is a constant, and this constant will be array, let's say price, and this price array is blank. Alright? And what we will do here, of course, is while it is blank, it will have here eventually, the moment we click on it, we should push an item. And if you're familiar with arrays, you know we can push them. Alright, so we have a blank array, and then we want to add a value. So we say here price, oh sorry, we cannot use price here because we have this here. We will say price array. Alright, So we have price array dot push, and then push will be what value exactly? The price here. And that's how we can do one. And then another one will be constant, and this will be the product array equal array empty. So it's empty, and the reason why it's empty, it starts at starting point. It's empty. But then what we want to do here is we will say here as well product array push, meaning every time we press on something we should push a product in here. So to do this and to just check if this really works, I want to show this. So we say here console log, and what I want to do is I want to get the price, or let's say get the product array. Every time we press, you will see that this will start to change. So if we save this, refresh. Oh, there's a syntax. All right. I guess this should be like that. Sorry about that, because I'm so used to PHP before I use this. It's erased a lot. So then we have this one. All right. My battery is finished. Just give me a minute. I'll just charge it quickly. All right. I just paused and I just add the battery, so that's fine. So we have here the following. So you have this here. Let's see if this works now. Now the array, what happens is when we select an item, it will push the price, meaning whatever value is will add up in the array. So if you're very familiar with JavaScript arrays, you have push, pop, pull, and shift. Is it pull? I'm not sure if it's pull. I think it's shift and unshift. Sorry, shift, unshift, push, and pop. Yeah, pull is completely different, so don't focus on pull. Alright, so what happens is basically with this push, we're going to add it at the very end. Since our array is empty, blank, pushing it consistently here will work very fine. Alright, so let's look at this, and then we press on one, and there we are, we get a array is not defined. Alright, the array here is undefined. So I'm going to check here exactly what is the array here, and if we press on this, what's going on? Why is it undefined? Well, what is the issue that we get? Alright, so after some checking and testing, I figured it out, and apparently it is very straightforward. I was very close with the brackets. It's just brackets blank. I should have known that. Alright, so once we do that and we save this, we create this, and then what happens is every time we click on an item, we push the price and we push the product in here. So let's check here, and then you can see here the following. So let's check here on not only on this, we go to our console log. In our console, if we click one now, as you can see here, we are pushing the espresso in here. That's nice. That's the first value. So if we press now on cappuccino, you can see here the following. And then we can keep on pressing, and you can see here, although I don't like this one here moving here, but that's alright. We're going to work on that. We're going to put that in here. So that's basically what we're going to do here. And what we want to do then here, the total products will be count, and then the total amount will be also counted here. And this could be very easily done here. We would probably say here, let's make it very quick. Say here, document dot, this equals, this should be total. Total, I will just give total and P, and here is the ID total products. Alright, the document dot get element by ID, and in this ID quotation, there you are. Then we say here total products, of course, with small caps, with a small letter P. Alright, and then what we do here is we will say here we want this one will basically here count total items. So what we will do is here dot inner text equals how much, or equals what? It will equal the array, and we can do this dot count. Once we save that, I expect this to work. And when we click on undefined, alright, so the reason why it's undefined is it doesn't click on count, or is it count this? But let's double check here first. Probably it's this one. We save that, refresh, Press. Fair enough. Doesn't work. We need to and close it with count. We save this, refresh. Alright, that doesn't work as well. Let me double check. Alright, so after some checking, I figured out it's not count. This is PHP. Forgive me about that. I'll remove this, and it is just array length. Save this, and then we refresh. Then if we press, you can see here it works, although it doesn't count yet the array length of products in a text, product array push. Are we pushing the product? Yes. So what's going on here? Let's double check. I want to check that. And we're going to put a console log here, and then this console log. Oh, we have it already here, I guess. Doesn't matter. So why are you not able to push this or count? The push value here is cappuccino 0, 0. I'm surprised it's not responding yet. Array count length. The total products should be the product array. I am really surprised it doesn't work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try on this one and see if this works. Doesn't read it at all. So why it doesn't count? That is now a new question that we have to figure out. So I was expecting this to count, but it doesn't count. Length, do I need to do it like this? Double check. No. And alright, I'll have to double check that. Alright, so after some searching, I figured out what the issue is. Okay, there's two parts here. First of all, this push here should not be like this. It should be here in parentheses. And secondly, so once we have this, it will still reset itself. As you can see, the first one didn't work, but this one it works now. But there's an issue here. What happens is it resets it. Every time you click, it will reset the array back to 0, and then it will add. So that doesn't work. So what we need to do is we need to move this outside the function, because it's not function dependent. It's basically default set on 0. So we save this now and then refresh. Now, as you can see, it starts to work nicely. All right. So this is basically how it works. You can see here now we have 8 items here. Length of 8 calculates 8. And the same we could do basically for the calculation. We can calculate how much would be the price as well. And I will do that in another video. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you enjoy this video, you probably will enjoy this one as well. And if you're interested in Chart.js, check out in the description box the link directing to my Chart.js course, where you can learn everything about Chart.js. And finally, of course, make sure you subscribe to my channel.